and welcome to an all-new episode of Memphis on the Mark. Today, my special guest is Ivan Rodrigues, and I have butchered your name.
Glad to be here. No, that's fine. You got it.
Well, close enough. Welcome. You have come to us from Brazil, correct?
That's right. A long way.
Just tell us a little bit what it was like growing up in Brazil and how you got to Memphis. And where you may have gone in between. What was it like just growing up in Brazil and wanting to be a filmmaker?
It's quite different than my experience in the U.S. is mainly L.A. and Memphis.
And those are two film capitals of
different
the
countries.
Memphis and L.A. are like the film capitals of the free world.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Well, in Brazil, there is not a big film industry, although since the 2000s, since 95, 98, some bigger movies started to come out. City of God made a splash, and some of those bigger movies started to create this trend of filmmaking that's kind of worldwide, or at least developing countries have that trend. So film schools were booming a little bit right when I got in. Okay. I always wanted to make films. I don't know why, honestly.
Me too. So as a kid, were you running around with a video camera?
Yes, I did little short films with my brother on VHS cameras.
Me too.
Yeah, I did all that. Had the big VHS kind of shoulder VHS camera that my dad had. So I made some films with that, short films, and edited with 2 VHS tapes that you put one on the other, and you're like recording. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So I've done all of that, and that was kind of the fun hangout for me. That's just me and my brother, and he would play all the characters.
Nice.
So I would just frame here and then do the reverse shot with him and change clothes. And I was like 8 or something when I was doing that. So that was that was when the first hints that my parents should have known by that time. It's like, he's gonna go towards that. My parents don't do anything with arts or anything. So for them was like, what is filming? Like, what are you gonna actually be working? Is this a real job?
Sure.
Can you make money out of it? All those, but they
questions that parents ask.
But they were very supportive throughout the whole thing. And they asked questions, but they were very supportive throughout the whole thing. I'm very blessed to have parents that supported me on that decision. And my brother turned out to be a musician.
Oh, nice.
So my parents were like, oh my God, yeah, oh my God, yes, we'll never retire. But anyway, they supported both of us, and it was really, really awesome. But from early on, I remember, renting VHS tapes, and what I really wanted to see is the making of behind the, after the film, or DVDs that had the behind the scenes. Yeah. That's the stuff that I liked. So I was like, I want to do this. And if you go into a deeper level, it may be just because I like to tell stories or manipulate or control stories. Because you play God when you're a filmmaker. Yeah, it's playing God. I'm creating stories. I'm creating characters that kind of do whatever I want them to do.
Right.
So in a way, you're playing God when you're making films. So there's certainly something really interesting about that. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, I went into that. I went to college in São Paulo, pretty good college. Gave me a lot of film experience. I shot a lot of 35 millimeter and 16 millimeter.
Oh, nice. I
directed my thesis graduating. I was a director. That's when I realized I don't really want to be a director. It's too crazy. That's when I went more towards photography. I had a professor of photography there, Felipe Salles, who actually showed me a lot of how interesting that can be. And it's a really photography and cinematography, which is what I kind of focus on. It's an interesting merge between creative and technical. Okay. And I like those two things. Like, I always was a good student. I always were a good student in like math and chemistry and physics.
Wow, I am not.
Yeah, and I love that kind of stuff. But then I didn't want to do that specifically. I had the creative side of me. So the cinematography and photography blends really well. Okay. The knowledge of optics and physics and all that kind of stuff with the creative, with telling stories, with the emotional aspect. So I actually did film school, but I also did psychology. I minored in psychology.
Really?
Yeah. So it's an interesting kind of mix of knowledge that I put into that. And then coming out of college, I decided to go towards cinematography more than anything.
So you started working in camera.
I started working in camera. My first job right out of college, the first 6 months, I did a really good college and I had a really good reel. So I shot a lot of stuff in 35 and 16. It was really pretty. And I had this big, resume that I did internships with things like this. And then I built this resume and I made a DVD at the time, a DVD with my reel. And I went out to the production companies like, I'm going to be a cinematographer.
Right.
And of course, like I got nothing.
Sure,
I
they're
sent,
like-
I don't know, 50 resumes and DVDs and nobody really cares.
They're like, kid,
They're like, who is,
we
yeah.
got 1,000 of you
That's
coming
exactly.
in.
That's exactly right. So it was the first reality check. The first
Right.
6 months out of college, I was just knocking on doors and getting all no's, and people didn't even want to see it. Like I
Right.
made the DVDs, I made the label and all
Oh,
that,
sure, I
really
know,
pretty
right?
and all
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Nobody even saw it. I think nobody ever saw that DVD ever until one friend of my cousin gave a call and said, "I need somebody to help me on this production." And my cousin was with her, and she said, "I got a cousin that does film." She's like, "All right, bring him in. He's hired."
Great.
Like, I walked into there and she's like, "You want to start tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, but do you want to see my DVD?
That's what I said. Like, "Here, do you want to see? Like, I have all these things that I did." And they're like, no, never mind. "Can you do it tomorrow?" I was like, "Sure." So I started as a PA. I was a
Yeah.
PA in commercials, making breakfast, and that's
Yeah.
was in charge of like the logistics stuff.
Yes.
So I did that for like a year or two
Okay.
as a PA. And then inside that production company, they had their own cameras. So I was like, I can take care of that camera. Like, I know how to do this. And I remember as a PA in a job,
Right.
it was a big job, a big commercial for a big, like $1 million commercial thing. And we had a stadium full of people, 500 people in the soccer stadium. And my job was to carry water up and down for the extras. And then by the end of the shoot, everybody's, all the people that are PAs, and they were like, "So you got a college degree?" It's like, "Yeah, I got a college degree." They go, "What are you doing here?" I was like, and I'm like, I couldn't find another way to start.
Yeah.
And I eventually went into camera a little bit and started taking care of the camera. And I was good at that because I knew the cameras.
Right.
I had the knowledge about that,
Yes.
right? So I started as a second AC, first AC. I did some DITing because I was also good at computers.
Wow.
And that kind of took off pretty fast.
You do a little psychology on the side.
Psychology wasn't being used there. I don't think I used that much, but pretty quickly I was ACing
wow.
for commercials because I had the knowledge and I had the contacts.
And that's assistant camera.
Assistant camera,
For
yes.
folks who may not
That's
know.
right. Assistant camera, so taking care of the camera, focus, media for commercials. And some bigger commercials, which was really interesting because I was watching big productions
Wow.
from the camera side, right? I was doing my own
Like
role
how many
there.
people would be on one of those big productions for a commercial?
I mean, on crew side was probably 50,
Yeah.
50, 60 people on crew, 3 or 4 cameras sometimes, big studio, so 5, 10 people lighting, and then you have extras and costume department and art department
Sure.
and all the kind of the crazy stuff that
Yeah.
goes behind filmmaking. But I was witnessing all of that and learning from that. So I did that for a few years. I started operating camera a little bit. I went to just Steadicam operator, which was
Okay.
an interesting decision. I met somebody that told me about it and got a course, and I did a pretty good workshop.
Right.
And I had some talent to that thing, and I kind of operated, and I started operating Steadicam for about a year. in
Oh,
Brazil.
nice.
I quickly realized that it would take a toll on my back.
Yeah, I know,
it's
because
so
people,
heavy.
you're wearing a
Yes.
camera on you.
Yeah,
and
it's a
it's
camera and a
strapped
rig.
to you.
And it's to stabilize the camera for who doesn't know Steadicam.
Yeah.
It's to stabilize, so it's a pretty interesting tool, really, really interesting
Yes.
tool. And then I remember seeing the first gimbal video, one of the very first gimbal videos years and years ago,
Right.
where a guy has a camera and then he's moving, shaking like this, and the camera is static. And I was like, oh boy, Steadicam is gonna be gone. Steadicam is not gonna last
all
very long.
gimbal.
Yeah, gimbal is gonna take over, so I'm not gonna invest too much in this career.
Right.
And I wanted to DP. I wanted to be
Yeah.
a cinematographer or
Okay.
a director of photography. And I figured out that I was getting marked as an AC. Nobody really would give me a job as a cinematographer.
Maybe you were too good of an AC.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't that good, really. I wasn't that really good. I didn't really love ACing. It's a very methodical job. Like, it's very, very methodical, and I'm not that great about that. I'm very non-protocol,
Okay.
to be honest, which I think makes me a better DP.
All right.
But
What did you come to America?
So that's why I decided to, you know what, I asked some producers in São Paulo, was like, I want a DP, give me a job as a DP. And they were like, nah, you're an AC, you're a great AC, just keep ACing, you're gonna AC and that's fine. And I was like, no, that's not enough. So I applied to a master's, I had my undergrad, I applied for grad school in LA. And I picked the two pretty good ones, which are UCLA and AFI. Are probably one of the two programs that have specific cinematography programs.
Right.
I applied for them and I got in. And then had to kind of decide how to move and how to make that. So I figured out the scholarship and got it all figured out and packed my bags and moved to LA.
And which school did you get into?
I went to UCLA.
UCLA.
Yes.
So you're a Bruin.
It was yes, I am. Yeah. It was a tough decision between AFI and UCLA.
Did you get into both?
I got into both. Yes.
Oh wow.
Which is two very
That's
very
two
good
of the
programs.
elite.
Yeah, for cinematography specifically are the two programs that are probably the best ones out there. So it was a tough decision to make. But UCLA had great scholarships.
Well, so
that makes a big difference.
And they got a good football team.
They have a good football team.
The AFI football program is
it's
not good at all, and they're not good at basketball either.
I bet there's not a filmmaker in the UCLA football team. I don't think there are filmmakers in that team.
No, they're not filmmakers, but as a student, you can go to games.
You can go to games.
And the AFI has
no
sports department, to my knowledge.
So I went to UCLA, and it was a great school because it's very flexible. One of the things that I didn't like about AFI is very structured. Like you just go in and there's that path. And UCLA had a lot of flexibility.
Sure.
It allowed me to
hang out on the quad and play ultimate frisbee.
And just do different courses and take different classes. And I changed some of the things that were done before me. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to do that. And they were very open.
Did you meet any actors while you were out there?
Yes, working in LA I work with great actors. I work with...
Who did you work with?
Kind of on set, I work with James Franco, Kristen Wiig, Natalie Portman, Jimmy Kimmel. A bunch of these guys were on set at a project or another with me. And I might have missing some names, but that's not to say that I actually hang out with them too much. I'm actually on camera. So there's some interesting stories about those actors, but it's normally from a camera perspective. I'm operating camera.
Sure.
Kristen Wiig is sitting in front of me and, she's like, so what lens do you have in? And I'm like, what do you know? Like, why do you care? So I have a 75 millimeter lens. And she's like, oh, okay. So then she took a step back and she's like, so this is good. And I was like, yes.
Yes.
So you know what you're doing.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And this is 70. She knows kind of, it's incredible to work with that talented actress.
Sure.
And she was doing a scene. This scene was very impressive. She was doing a walkthrough and she was talking to a bunch of people. And then she had to land on that mark.
Right.
And I was gonna put a mark down for her. She said, no, it's fine.
Really?
And I was like, okay. Because some actors don't like marks, right? Because you have to hit the mark and it's kind of, it makes it a little, stiff or they don't really like it. And she's like, it's fine. I was like, don't put the mark. That's okay. Let's, talent has always the less, call. So she did the scene and it's a 75 millimeter lens, very tight. So focus is really hard to get on that final spot. So I put the focus on the final mark and just hope that she would hit, and she just landed.
Nice.
And there's inches of focus, and she just landed exactly.
That's great because I've been on an extra on some big movies here in Memphis, and they're like red and white X's all over the floor.
That's normal. That's normal. I'm not saying that it's normal. Every once in a while you put marks for all the actors and everything, but they often don't hit the mark.
Right.
Or it's just, and some actors don't like it. I think she's like, I got this.
If she can do it, then she can do it.
And she nailed it. It was impressive. So working with some of those actors are pretty awesome. And I work closely with Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, right. You went to his house.
I mentioned to you before. Yeah. He was doing some personal projects. And he wanted somebody to come and film.
Was he making some art films?
No, he was actually coaching his niece in acting.
Nice.
So I probably got one of the best acting classes you can ever wish for, which was him coaching her in his house, and he wanted somebody to shoot it, and he called UCLA, can you send me some of her students, and they sent me and another friend of mine.
Wow.
So it was the two of us in his house, and we're just hanging out with cameras and shooting whatever the scene he has. And it turns out we shot a few of those actually.
Nice.
And he was just the nicest guy ever. He's like a big grandpa kind of
Really?
thing. Yeah, he's just super nice and incredible to see how he changed when he acted. So he was, you know, he's I don't know, he's probably 80s or something. So he has difficult walking and some of those things. But then when he starts to act, like he just shave off like 30 years off of his back, and he's just like on it, and just something about it. And I'm recording, I was like, oh my goodness, like there's some magic in here, and he can like, you know, quote Shakespeare, and he's one of the brightest guys I've ever met, like by far.
That's amazing.
So I shot the film for him. Interesting story. I shot it and we edited it, and then he wanted to put some music in it. And I asked her, sure. So he said, can you come to the house and show me the video and we'll put some music? And I was like, okay, how are we gonna do that? And I was, sure.
And you said, listen, I've got a DVD of my own work. I can show you.
So I brought my laptop with the film that we edited. It's like a 5-minute kind of short film. And then he said, oh, great. So come over here to the living room. It's a beautiful house in Malibu. And he set it to the side of the piano and said, can you hit play? And I said, sure, I hit play. And then he started to play a soundtrack for the film on his piano.
That is amazing.
I was like, oh my goodness.
He is like uber talented.
He's just, he started to compose a soundtrack for the
That's
for the
amazing.
film. And he's like, oh, what do you think? And I was like, I think it's great.
Sure.
So can you record it? Sure, I recorded it, and he played it one more time, and that's how he did the soundtrack for the film.
That is amazing.
Some interesting stories,
Let's skip forward a lot as we're winding down. You moved back to Brazil, you got married, and then you moved to Memphis.
That's right.
I mean, I may have skipped over a little bit.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Memphis?
Almost 2 years. It's gonna be 2 years soon. So almost 2 years now.
All right. And what are you doing a lot of DPing?
So not as much as I wanted, honestly. When I moved to Memphis, I went around and I met everybody.
I remember Lynn Sittler meeting you at an event. She goes, oh, Mark, come here, blah, blah, blah.
Because I think there was a new DP in town. Everybody wanted to, like, who is this guy? And
you moved here as Ryan Parker was moving out of town.
At the exact same time.
So that worked well.
Yes. So everybody was like, oh, God, we need, fill that hole of a DP when he moved out. So everybody kind of wanted to meet me, and I went out and I had lunch and coffee with a bunch of people.
Right.
Which is interesting to understand the market. It's a smaller community, so everybody knows each other. Everybody worked with each other before. So it's hard to be the outsider kind of coming in with a different style as well. I had a different style. The stuff that I've shot in my career is not very standard. So I shot very different languages and different styles, and it was hard to kind of see how I'm going to fit into the community. But I met a lot of people, and I worked, in the beginning, I worked actually in different positions. I was willing to
you colored one of my films.
I colored corrected your film.
Corrected one of my films.
I gaffed, and I did first AC, a camera assistant, and lighting. I did some of those jobs, just kind of figured out how people worked in here. And then, since then, I've worked here a little bit, but I had to go back to LA more than often, just because my contacts are still back in LA.
Sure.
And most of the projects that I get a call for are in LA. So I kind of travel often to LA. I stay a week or two, do a project, and then go back to Memphis. I have a 1-year-old son here.
Sure.
So I don't want to leave too much. I want to stay more in LA than I really want to go to LA. But the projects in LA, just
that's
the context, and that's where the money is. So I gotta do what I gotta do. But I keep kind of pushing to work more in Memphis.
Right. Well, we need to get more work here.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, be it the TV show, Bluff City Law, that comes here.
Yeah. Well, the problem with those big shoots
is
they bring on their crew. Yeah. So every time somebody, get a call from Linda or from anybody saying, this big production is coming, I was like, it's not.
So we need to somehow grow our own farm team.
That's right. And I remember hearing from the line producer from the past film that was here. I think it was the Brian Banks film. I'm not sure. She was giving a talk at the Indie Memphis festival last year. And she was saying how they couldn't find a quality AC here. And they couldn't find,
that's BS.
And they're like, we can't find the crew that we need here because they're not used to the cameras that we're using and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's not true.
That is not true. It's BS.
But,
it's just.
But understanding the way this industry works, I kind of know that they're not gonna come to a city that they don't know and hire some guy that they've never met and then just put him in a big key position. That's not how the industry operates. That's one of the problems, my biggest frustrations with the industry is just it's all about who you know. Yeah. And when I moved to places like Memphis, or when I moved back to Brazil, I had this horrible conversation with the producer where I went to show him my work, and I've shot
the DVD.
No, it's not the DVD anymore. I actually had like 2 feature films and commercials and all these things under the belt, and I showed him, and he basically said, like, you have some amazing quality work, and you're probably like more talented than the DP that shoots for me, but he's the guy I know, so I'm just gonna keep shooting with him.
That's true, because I've used the same DPs.
That's right.
For my work.
And I thought it was super honest. He said, like, you probably would do a better job than he would, but he's the guy I know. And I'm like, so what do I say to that? Like, you're saying, you do have a better quality, but I want less quality, but somebody I know.
Some guy I know. Cousin Roy.
That's a lot of how this industry operates, unfortunately. And I think that's not good for the quality and for the professionals. So it involves me not only shooting good films and studying my craft, but involves me also posting on social media and going to parties and going to hang out, which is how I get jobs.
Just to meet people.
Just to meet people, and that's how they hire you.
Yeah.
So I don't like that very much.
Well, you got to be a social butterfly.
But you kind of have to do a little bit of that to navigate this industry. So that's why these big films, when they come to town, even if there's talent here, I think it's hard for them to hire somebody like that. It is,
but if we got a TV show, maybe the first year.
There you go. That's
there
different.
would be some people they bring in.
That's different, yeah.
But we could get our people up in the ranks. So by season 2, 3, 4, we are we're running the show.
That's definitely right. Yeah.
It is. Well, listen, we'll wrap this up. I've got a little thing that I call Moments with Mark.
Okay, awesome.
And I am sorry we didn't get a chance to talk about your capital in Brazil.
Okay.
I'm sorry we didn't get.
That's fine.
It's a beautiful city.
We'll do it off camera. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city. Yeah.
If you get a chance, look up the capital of Brazil. It's
Brasilia.
Brasilia, designed by Oscar
Niemeyer.
Yeah. It really is a beautiful city, and I'm sorry we didn't have time.
That's fine. Yeah, people can look it up. There's a lot about it.
Yes, so that's your homework assignment. Look up the capital of Brazil and about Oscar. He also designed the United Nations building.
That's correct.
So very good. All right, well, I'm going to do Moments with Mark.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. On today's episode of Moments with Mark, I'd like to talk to you. There are several unused overpasses, walking overpasses in Memphis. Some are on streets, like there is one that goes over Jefferson, an overpass. As you go downtown, there's one where Lamar turns into Crump. There's an unused overpass. And there's one over Danny Thomas. And there are a couple over the interstates. But these are some are blocked off, I think. We need to take these unused overpasses and turn them into artwork. Or grow flower, put in 2 feet of dirt and put in tulips or flowers, giant sunflowers, some sort of artwork or garden on these overpasses, because they're just kind of ugly and they serve really no purpose. They're not being used. So at the very least, when Memphis hosts a big basketball tournament, the city could hang welcome basketball fans banners on these overpasses. But let's get to work on the overpasses, turn them into gardens, turn them into artwork, something.
It's a great idea.
Thank you. Ivan, thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm glad to be here.
And I'm glad you're here in Memphis.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Better sit down. I got some news. Well, I'm getting